Look at that splash. Woo! Shazam. Shazam, Shazam, Shazam. Here is your Friday poll question at Smerconish.com. Should California abandon its independent redistricting commission? Should California abandon its independent redistricting commission? Oh, Michael, you worded that it's concise, but it's very deliberate, isn't it? Yes, it is. And I shall explain in just a moment. What a wonderful night last night at Parks Casino. Great, great night. Fun to see so many listeners as well and to interact with a lot of people. I began my night in the Parks Grill Steakhouse, and coincidentally, there was like a Phillies alumni event taking place at Parks Casino in the steakhouse last night. So sat down and ate, got to hang out with Ruben Amaro Jr., who had been the assistant general manager when they won the World Series, and then he became the general manager and comes from a family with a rich Phillies tradition. That was a lot of fun stuff before the comedy night, which is what brought me to Parks Casino last night. So as promised, it was Joe Conklin, Philly's own Joe Conklin, the man of 1,000 voices. He opened the show, funny as all get out. Then it was Joe Ellis making her comedy debut at Parks Casino. I thought she had a great set. And then Ian Lara was the headliner. And as promised, it was all $25 worth of entertainment and a free drink. In other words, it was a hell of a lot more of a value, but it was a great night to be out and have some laughs, have a beer in my case, and cheer on Joe as she begins this new comedic trajectory. So when you get the opportunity, they do this, I think, every other Thursday night. There's always something going on at Parks. But last night was special. But go to a comedy night there, or go see some live music there, or go to the Excite Center for one of their big headliners, which is, like a 1,400 seat auditorium, and it's terrific. Always something to do, always some reason to have some fun at Parks Casino in the Philly burbs. It's parxcasino.com. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So yesterday, 34,754 votes were cast. I loved yesterday's poll question. Shane Goldmacher from the New York Times was a guest yesterday. He wrote the page one story above the fold on the registration problems being faced by Democrats. Here was the lead. The Democratic Party is hemorrhaging voters long before they even go to the polls. Of the 30 states that track voter registration by political party, Democrats lost ground to Republicans in every single one of them. Between 2020 and 2024, often by a lot, that 4-year swing toward the Republicans adds up to 4.5 million voters, a deep political hole that could take years for Democrats to climb out. So the question is, why? This was a what piece, as I said to Shane, and I'm asking, or did ask yesterday, the why question of what explains it. When all was said and done, 42.09% of those who voted said it's the leadership. It's Biden, it's Pelosi, it's Schumer. They got to make way for a new generation of leaders. That was followed by 34.04% who said the party is just too leftist. 7.58% said media, 6.62%, I was in this category, elitism. And what I really meant, I should have used a different word, authenticity, or a lack of authenticity. That's what I think they suffer from the most. 6.28% said it's Donald Trump, and only 3.39% said it's the economy. Yesterday's poll question is directly related to today's poll question, which is this whole redistricting issue. And you know what happened in Texas, or what is happening in Texas, and now California is responding in kind. I'm going to address this on radio today, and who knows what the news cycle brings between now and Saturday morning at 9 a.m. But if the news cycle stays as it is, then I'd love to deliver a commentary on CNN on this as well. Here's my bottom line. I don't approve of what Texas has done. I didn't even know that you could mid-decade redistrict. I like the system we have, where we take the census every 10 years, and then we go through a process of reapportionment that concludes in redistricting. I don't like gerrymandering. Gerrymandering, however, is only half the problem. The other half of the problem is self-sorting, best exemplified by the fact that in 2024, more than 80% of counties were landslide counties. And we don't change boundary lines for our counties, right? Boundary lines for counties are fixed. So what's the point? The point, and by the way, I address all of this in the Mingle presentation. Please watch the Mingle presentation for the full explanation. But self-sorting is as much of a problem as gerrymandering, and it doesn't get a sufficient amount of attention. And what is self-sorting? It is spending time with the like-minded, even living among the like-minded, and sending your kids to school, among the like-minded, and your social circle, to the extent you have one. What's necessary? I do I even have to say the M word? Common experience. Common experience. So every time we talk about gerrymandering, I feel obligated to talk about the self-sorting component, all of this, and how we can change that. Now, relative to gerrymandering, okay, relative to self-sorting, get out of your bubble. Go volunteer, be active, be a joiner, do what your parents did. Relative to gerrymandering, what do we need to do? We need to professionalize the process. We need to take the pen out of the hands of the politicians and allow the boundary lines to be drawn by independent commissions. Oh, wait a minute. Who does that? Oh, California does that. So why would we now in this tit for tat gesture go against the grain of what represents progress and get rid of California's system? And by the way, I've read the fine print. I know what Gavin Newsom says. Well, this is going to be for the 2026 election and the 2028 election and the 2030 election. Then we'll go back to the independent commission. Who believes that? Not me. So I can't believe this, that if you had told me, what's the line? It was not on my bingo card, that when 2025 began, Trump 2.0 began, that the most exciting election and the most expensive election of 2025, given it's an off-year election, would be a California ballot initiative on redistricting. And yet that's what it's going to be. This is now going to go to voters in California in November, and you've got Newsom and Schwarzenegger. So it's got all the elements, and Arnold wants to protect his legacy. By the way, 69% voted for, I think it was 2010, voted for the professionalization, that's a bad word, the independent commission. 69%. It was a thin margin when they had a ballot initiative, I think in 2008, for the state legislative districts. But when they did this for the congressional districts, 69% voted for it. So that's the starting point. But now Newsom is going to make this a referendum on Trump, which makes it really interesting. I don't know how it turns out. I think a lot of money is going to be spent because I think many people believe that control of Congress is on the line. I don't think so. I don't think so. Historically, the party that is outside the White House in a midterm election picks up 24 seats. So, I mean, if it comes down to just 3 or 4, then sure, Texas and California is going to matter. But my gut tells me, just looking at the history, that it's a big year for D's, not for R's, and that in a referendum on Trump, Democrats are going to come out and probably retake control of the House. In any event, it's a great poll question, I think, today. And I'm forcing you. I mean, I didn't say, notice what I didn't say. Notice what I didn't say. I didn't say, should California redistrict? I didn't do that. I said, should California abandon, strong word, abandon its independent redistricting commission? Because that's what's at stake in this ballot initiative. I'm making it harder for you to take the side of California. That was my intent. My cards are on the table. I worded it in a way that makes it difficult, I think, for you to come to that conclusion. So in any event, go vote on the Friday poll question at Smerconish.com. Tell me what you think. Should California abandon its independent redistricting commission? If you're listening to the podcast, thank you. But take advantage of the fact that each and every day I explain them on YouTube as well, and would love you to be part of the YouTube community. And those who are watching on YouTube, would you kindly like and subscribe, and set yourself up for notification. One other programming note, I'm off next week, so I will not be here in my normal YouTube time slot, but I'd like to randomly pop up, and that's why I say set yourself up for notifications in case I should be inclined to do so. The newsletter goes on, the radio show goes on, the poll question will be, a part of your daily life next week for sure. But the YouTube Monday through Friday and next Saturday when I'm off Labor Day weekend from CNN, I just don't want you to think that something's changed. Nothing's changed except a little bit of R&R, I hope. Okay. I'll see you tomorrow, though, Saturday at 7:30 Eastern time before the CNN program, and I hope you'll be joining me then. See you, gang.